The fluorescent lights of Metropolitan Hospital buzzed softly as Dr. Michael Chen walked through the cardiac wing. His white coat was crisp and clean, his name embroidered in blue thread above his chest pocket. At 45 years old, he had spent 20 years saving lives in this building. His hands had held hundreds of beating hearts. His decisions had given families more time with the people they loved. Other doctors respected him. Nurses trusted his judgment. Patients felt safe under his care. He was the surgeon people asked for by name when their hearts failed them. His success rate was among the highest in the state of Illinois. Medical students came from other cities just to watch him work. Michael had worked hard for this reputation. He came to America when he was 8 years old. His parents had very little money. They worked in a restaurant 7 days a week. Michael studied while other kids played. He got perfect grades. He won scholarships. He went to the best medical school in the country. Every success felt like proof that he had made it, that he belonged, that he had earned his place. That Tuesday evening in July, Michael was tired. He had already performed 2 surgeries that day. His shift was supposed to end at 6 o'clock. He was looking forward to going home to his wife and 2 children. His daughter had a piano recital that weekend. His son had just learned to ride a bike without training wheels. Michael wanted to be there for these moments, but at 5:30, his pager went off. The emergency room needed him. A patient was coming in with severe chest pain. The on-call surgeon was stuck in traffic after a car accident on the highway. Michael was the only cardiac surgeon in the building who could handle a complex case. Michael sighed. He called his wife. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'll be late again," she understood. She always understood. That was part of being married to a surgeon. 20 minutes later, Jerome Walker arrived at the emergency room. He was 38 years old, a high school teacher who loved his job. He taught history to 10th graders on the south side of Chicago. His students called him Mr. Walker. They respected him because he respected them. He made history interesting by connecting it to their lives today. Jerome also volunteered at a community center on weekends. He helped kids with homework. He coached a basketball team. He organized food drives. People in his neighborhood knew his face and his warm smile. He was the kind of person who made the world a little bit better just by being in it. That evening, Jerome had been playing basketball with some teenagers at the community center. He loved basketball. He had played in high school and still had decent skills. But during the game, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. At first, he thought it was just heartburn. He had eaten spicy food for lunch, but the pain got worse. It spread to his left arm. He felt dizzy. His vision got blurry. One of the teenagers noticed something was wrong. "Mr. Walker, you okay?" the kid asked. Jerome tried to smile. "I'm fine," he said. But then his knees got weak. He sat down on the floor. "Call 911, another teenager shouted. The ambulance came fast. The paramedics checked his vital signs. His blood pressure was too high. His heartbeat was irregular. They put an oxygen mask on his face. They loaded him onto a stretcher. Jerome's phone was in his gym bag. Someone from the community center called his sister to tell her what happened. At the hospital, the emergency room doctor examined Jerome. She ordered tests right away. An EKG showed his heart was in trouble. A blood test revealed high levels of certain enzymes. These enzymes only show up when heart muscle is dying. "We need to do an angiogram," the doctor said to her team. "Get cardiac surgery on standby." The angiogram showed the problem clearly. One of Jerome's main coronary arteries was almost completely blocked. Blood could barely flow through it. His heart was starving for oxygen. He needed surgery immediately. Without it, he would die within hours. The emergency room doctor paged Dr. Chen. When he arrived, she showed him the scans. "Major blockage in the left anterior descending artery," she explained. "He needs a bypass, possibly valve repair. Can you take him?" Michael looked at the images. This was serious. The surgery would be complicated. It would take several hours, but it was the kind of work he did best. "Prep him for surgery," Michael said. "I'll scrub in." Jerome was barely conscious. The pain medication made everything feel distant and foggy. Nurses moved around him quickly. They asked him questions. Did he have any allergies? Was he taking any medications? Did he have any family members they should call? "My sister," Jerome mumbled. "Her number is in my phone. We'll contact her," a nurse promised. They gave Jerome more medication to prepare him for surgery. His eyes closed. The world faded away. He did not know who would operate on him. He did not know anything except that he was scared and in pain and he wanted to live. In the operating room, the surgical team prepared everything. Nurses laid out instruments in perfect order. The anesthesiologist checked his machines. Michael washed his hands carefully, scrubbing every finger, every nail, every inch of skin. He put on his surgical gown and gloves. He took a deep breath. This was what he was born to do. This was his purpose. In this room, with a scalpel in his hand and a life depending on him, everything else disappeared. Politics did not matter. Money did not matter. Only the work mattered. Only the heart mattered. Jerome was wheeled into the operating room. The team transferred him to the operating table. The anesthesiologist put him completely to sleep. His chest was cleaned and marked for the incision. Everything was ready. Michael stood at the table. He looked down at Jerome's peaceful face. In sleep, all people looked the same. Vulnerable, human, trusting. "Let's begin," Michael said. The surgery started at 7:15 in the evening. None of them knew that this operation would change everything. None of them knew that what happened in this room would become news across the country. None of them knew that the man on the table and the man holding the scalpel would be connected forever in the most unexpected way. The fluorescent lights hummed. The monitors beeped steadily, and Dr. Michael Chen made his first cut. The first hour of surgery went perfectly. Dr. Michael Chen's hands moved with confidence and precision. He had done this procedure hundreds of times. His fingers knew exactly where to cut, where to clamp, where to stitch. The surgical team worked around him like a well-trained orchestra. Everyone knew their role. "Scalpel," Michael said. A nurse placed the instrument in his hand without him looking up. "Suction," he said next. Another nurse cleared the blood from his workspace. The anesthesiologist monitored Jerome's vital signs from across the room. "Blood pressure stable," she announced. "Heart rate steady." Michael opened Jerome's chest with careful precision. The ribs had to be spread apart gently. The heart sat beneath them, still beating, still fighting to stay alive despite the damaged artery. It was always amazing to see. A heart looked so simple, just muscle and blood, but it held everything. Every memory, every hope, every tomorrow depended on this small organ. "Bypass machine ready," a surgical technician said. Michael nodded. They would need to stop Jerome's heart to work on it. The bypass machine would pump blood through his body while his heart rested. It was delicate work. Timing mattered. Every second counted. Maria Rodriguez stood near the instrument tray. She had been a surgical nurse for 12 years. She had worked with Dr. Chen many times before. He was demanding but fair. He expected excellence but never yelled. She respected him. Many nurses did. Tonight something felt different. Maria could not explain it. Maybe it was the stress in Dr. Chen's face. Maybe it was the way he moved a little faster than usual. He seemed tense. The surgery continued. Michael connected the bypass machine. Jerome's heart slowed and then stopped. The machine took over, keeping blood flowing to his brain and organs. Now Michael could work on the blocked artery. "There it is," Michael said, pointing with his instrument. "Severe blockage. We'll need to do a triple bypass." This meant the surgery would take longer. The damage was worse than the scans had shown. Michael would need to take healthy blood vessels from Jerome's leg and chest and use them to create new pathways around the blocked arteries. It was like building new roads when the old highways were closed. As Michael worked, he started talking. Surgeons often talked during long procedures. It helped them stay focused. Usually they discussed the surgery itself or made small talk about sports or weather. But tonight Michael said something different. "Another Tuesday night," he muttered. "Another emergency case from the south side." Nobody responded. The team kept working, Michael continued. "These people never take care of themselves. They eat terrible food. They don't exercise. Then they show up here expecting us to fix everything." Maria's hands froze for a second. She glanced at the other nurses. Did she hear that correctly? One of the other nurses, an older woman named Beth, kept her eyes down. She had heard it too. Michael kept talking as he worked. His hands remained steady, but his words grew sharper. "I'm tired of it. Every week it's the same thing. Heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, all preventable. But they won't listen to doctors. They won't change their habits." The anesthesiologist, Dr. Sarah Kim, spoke up. "Dr. Chen, the patient's pressure is rising slightly. Adjust the medication, Michael said automatically. His hands never stopped moving. The surgery was going well despite his words, but then he said more. You know what the problem is? Nobody wants to say it, but it's true. These people don't value their health. They don't value education. They just expect everyone else to solve their problems. Maria felt sick to her stomach. She realized what Dr. Chen was doing. He was not talking about people from the South Side. He was talking about black people. Jerome was black, and Dr. Chen was making racist comments while operating on him. Dr. Chen, Maria said quietly, maybe we should focus on the surgery. Michael looked up at her. His eyes were cold. I am focused. This is what I do every single day. Save people who won't save themselves. He returned his attention to Jerome's heart. Hand me the graft, he said. Maria gave him what he needed. Her hands were shaking. She had never heard Dr. Chen talk like this before. Was this who he really was? Had he always thought these things? The surgery continued for another hour. Michael kept making comments. Some were subtle, some were direct. He complained about those neighborhoods and that culture. He said things about work ethic and responsibility that had nothing to do with the man on the table. Beth, the older nurse, looked like she might cry, but she said nothing. Dr. Chen had power in this hospital. He could make life difficult for nurses who disagreed with him. Maria thought about Jerome. He was unconscious, completely unaware of what was being said about him. This man who was probably a good person, who probably had a family and friends and dreams, was lying here helpless while a surgeon insulted him. But that same surgeon was also saving his life. Michael's hands were performing miracles. He was rebuilding Jerome's heart with incredible skill. The grafts were perfect. The stitches were flawless. Whatever Michael felt about Jerome's skin color did not affect his surgical ability. This made it worse somehow. Michael could hate Jerome and save him at the same time. He could think terrible things and still do his job perfectly. It was possible to be both skilled and cruel. Finally, after 3 hours, the surgery was complete. Michael had installed 3 bypass grafts. Jerome's heart looked healthy now. Blood would flow freely through the new pathways. His life was saved. Start bringing him off bypass, Michael ordered. The team slowly disconnected Jerome from the machine. His own heart needed to start beating again on its own. This was always a tense moment. Sometimes hearts did not restart, but Michael had prepared everything perfectly. Jerome's heart fluttered. Then it beat once, twice, then it found its rhythm, strong and steady. He's back, the anesthesiologist said with relief. Michael closed the chest. He stitched the skin carefully. Even his final stitches were perfect. When Jerome woke up, he would have a neat scar, but he would be alive. Good work, everyone, Michael said as he removed his gloves. He sounded tired but satisfied. Post-op instructions are standard. Monitor him closely for the next 12 hours. Page me if there are any complications. He left the operating room without another word about Jerome or race or anything else. It was as if the last 3 hours had been completely normal to him. The team remained silent as they finished cleaning up. Maria helped transfer Jerome to recovery. He was still deeply asleep. His chest rose and fell with each breath. He had no idea what happened. He only knew that he went into surgery and would wake up alive. Maria walked to the nurse's station. Her supervisor, Linda Chen, was there doing paperwork. Linda was not related to Dr. Chen despite the same last name. How did the surgery go? Linda asked. Maria sat down. She felt exhausted. The surgery was successful. The patient should make a full recovery. That's wonderful, Linda said, smiling. Maria hesitated. Then she said, but something happened during the procedure. Something I need to report. Linda looked up from her paperwork. What is it? Maria took a deep breath. What she said next would change everything. She knew it. But she also knew she had to say it. Some things could not be ignored. Some things had to be brought into the light no matter the cost. Dr. Chen made inappropriate comments during the surgery, Maria said. Racist comments about the patient. Linda's face went pale. Are you certain? Yes, Maria said. And it's all on the audio recording. Every surgery is recorded for training purposes. Everything he said is on that recording. Linda closed her eyes. After 12 years as a nursing supervisor, she thought she had seen everything. But this was new. This was serious. This would not go away quietly. Write down everything you remember, Linda said. Every word, every detail. We need to report this to the chief of surgery and the hospital ethics board immediately. 3 days after the surgery, Jerome Walker opened his eyes and saw sunlight coming through hospital curtains. His chest hurt. His whole body felt heavy. But he was alive. He could breathe. He could think. He could feel his heart beating strong and steady inside his chest. A nurse noticed he was awake. She smiled at him. "Welcome back, Mr. Walker. You gave us quite a scare." Jerome tried to speak, but his throat was dry. The nurse gave him ice chips. "What happened?" Jerome asked. "You had emergency heart surgery," the nurse explained. Dr. Chen performed a triple bypass. "You're going to be fine, but you need to rest." Jerome nodded slowly. He remembered the pain, the ambulance, the fear. Everything after that was blank. "How long was I out?" 3 days, the nurse said. "You've been in recovery. Your sister has been here every day. Should I call her?" "Yes, please," Jerome said. His sister Denise arrived within an hour. When she saw Jerome awake, she started crying. She hugged him carefully, afraid of hurting him. "I thought I was going to lose you," she said. "I'm okay," Jerome told her. "I'm going to be okay." Over the next few days, Jerome slowly got stronger. He could sit up in bed. He could eat soft foods. Physical therapists helped him walk short distances in the hallway. His students sent him cards covered with drawings and kind messages. His basketball kids made him a poster that said, "Get well soon, coach." Dr. Chen visited Jerome every morning. He checked the surgical wound. He looked at test results. He asked questions about pain and breathing. He was professional and thorough. Jerome was grateful. "Thank you for saving my life," Jerome said during one visit. Michael nodded. "That's my job. You're healing well. If you keep improving like this, you can go home in a few days." Jerome smiled. He felt lucky. He had been close to death, and this skilled surgeon had pulled him back. He did not know anything about what happened during his surgery. He did not know about the words spoken while he slept. He simply felt grateful. But in a conference room 3 floors above Jerome's hospital bed, a very different conversation was happening. 5 people sat around a table. Dr. Patricia Morrison, the chief of surgery, Richard Lee, the hospital administrator, Dr. James Wilson, head of the ethics board, Linda Chen, the nursing supervisor, and Maria Rodriguez, who sat with her hands folded, trying to stay calm. In the center of the table was a small audio recording device. "Before we listen to this," Dr. Morrison said, "I want to make sure we understand what we're dealing with. Maria, you were in the operating room. Tell us exactly what you heard." Maria had already written everything down. She had barely slept for 3 nights thinking about it. Dr. Chen made multiple comments during the surgery. He said things about people from the South Side not taking care of themselves. He talked about these people not valuing health or education. He used language that was clearly directed at Black people in general and I believe the patient specifically. "And the surgery itself?" Dr. Morrison asked. "Perfect," Maria said. Dr. Chen's surgical performance was flawless. The patient is recovering well, but that doesn't change what he said. Richard Lee, the administrator, looked worried. "This could destroy this hospital's reputation. Dr. Chen is one of our best surgeons. But if this gets out—" "It should get out," Dr. Wilson interrupted. "If a surgeon is expressing racist views while operating on patients, that's a massive ethical violation. The patient has a right to know." "Does he?" Richard asked. "The surgery was successful. The patient is happy. Maybe we handle this internally. Mandatory sensitivity training for Dr. Chen. A formal reprimand in his file." Dr. Morrison shook her head. "We have to listen to the recording first. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with." She pressed play. The room filled with sounds from the operating room. Beeping monitors, quiet voices giving medical instructions, and then Dr. Chen's voice, clear and cold, saying things that made everyone at the table uncomfortable. They listened to the full 3-hour recording. Not all of it contained offensive comments, but enough did. More than enough. There was no ambiguity. No room for interpretation. Dr. Chen had expressed racist views while operating on a Black patient. When the recording ended, the room was silent. "Well," Dr. Morrison said finally, We have to tell Mr. Walker. Are you sure? Richard asked. Maybe we suspend Dr. Chen quietly. Handle this without traumatizing the patient. The patient deserves to know, Doctor, Wilson said firmly. Imagine if he finds out later. Imagine if the media finds out and he learns about it from the news. That would be even worse. Maria spoke up. Mr. Walker seems like a kind man. He thanked Dr. Chen. He's grateful to be alive. This is going to hurt him deeply. I know, Dr. Morrison said. But we don't have a choice. This is about ethics and honesty. Schedule a meeting with Mr. Walker. I'll tell him myself. The next afternoon, Dr. Morrison entered Jerome's hospital room. Jerome was sitting up reading a book. He smiled when he saw her. Hello, Dr. Morrison. Is everything okay? Mr. Walker, I need to talk to you about something serious, she said. Your sister is welcome to stay if you'd like. Denise was sitting in a chair by the window. She looked at her brother with concern. What's wrong? Jerome asked. Is it my heart? No, your heart is fine, Dr. Morrison said. She sat down. This is about your surgery, about what happened in the operating room. Jerome's smile faded. What do you mean? Doctor. Morrison took a deep breath. She had rehearsed this conversation in her mind dozens of times. There was no easy way to say it. During your surgery, Dr. Chen made inappropriate comments about race. He expressed prejudiced views about black people while operating on you. The words hung in the air. Jerome stared at her. He looked confused, like he had misheard. I don't understand, he said. All surgeries are recorded for training and safety purposes, Dr. Morrison explained. We have audio of the entire procedure. Dr. Chen made multiple racist statements during your operation. I'm so sorry, Mr. Walker. This should never have happened. Jerome felt like someone had punched him in the chest. Worse than the heart attack. This hurt in a different way. But he saved my life, Jerome said quietly. He did, Dr. Morrison agreed. His surgical skill was excellent, but what he said was completely unacceptable. We're conducting a full investigation. Dr. Chen has been suspended pending the outcome. Denise stood up. She looked furious. That man stood in this room and acted like everything was fine. He let my brother thank him while knowing what he had said. Jerome felt numb. He thought about Dr. Chen's morning visits, the professional demeanor, the careful examination of his healing chest. All of it felt like a lie now. What did he say exactly? Jerome asked. Dr. Morrison hesitated. Are you sure you want to know the details? Yes, she told him. Not everything, but enough. She told him about the comments about these people and the South Side and the assumptions about culture and values. Each word felt like a small knife. When she finished, Jerome was quiet for a long time. Denise was crying. Dr. Morrison waited. I need to be alone, Jerome finally said. Dr. Morrison nodded. I understand. A counselor is available if you want to talk to someone. And Mr. Walker, I want you to know that we take this extremely seriously. This hospital does not tolerate discrimination of any kind. After she left, Jerome sat in his hospital bed feeling everything at once. Anger, betrayal, confusion, hurt. The man who saved his life also hated him. How was that possible? How could someone do something so good and something so terrible at the same time? He touched his chest, feeling the bandages over his healing scar. Dr. Chen's hands had been inside his body. Those same hands that held his beating heart had belonged to someone who saw him as less than human. Jerome had experienced racism before. He was a black man in America. He knew about suspicious looks, in stores and traffic stops that lasted too long, and assumptions about his education and abilities. But this felt different. This felt personal in a way he could not explain. He had been unconscious, vulnerable, trusting. And in that moment of complete helplessness, someone had mocked him. Outside Jerome's room, news was already spreading. Hospital staff whispered in hallways. Someone told someone who told someone else. By evening, a reporter had somehow heard the story. She started making phone calls, asking questions, digging for details. The story was too big to contain, too shocking to keep quiet. Within 24 hours, it would be everywhere. And when it broke, it would change everything for everyone involved. But in that quiet hospital room, Jerome Walker simply sat with his pain and his confusion, trying to understand how the best day of his life and the worst day of his life had happened at exactly the same time. The news broke on a Thursday morning. A local reporter published the story online at 6 a.m. By 7 a.m., it was trending on social media. By 8 a.m., national news networks were covering it. By noon, the entire country was talking about Dr. Michael Chen and Jerome Walker. The headline was simple and devastating. Surgeon's racist rant during life-saving surgery exposed. The article included quotes from the recording. Not everything, but enough to shock readers. It explained that a skilled heart surgeon had made racist comments about his black patient while successfully performing emergency surgery. The story had everything that made news spread fast: racism, medicine, irony, and moral complexity. Social media exploded. People shared the story thousands of times. Some were outraged. Some were not surprised. Many were confused about how to feel. "This is exactly why black people don't trust the medical system," one person tweeted. "He saved the man's life. Isn't that what matters?" Another person argued, "You can be good at your job and still be a racist." "Both things are true," someone else posted. The hashtag Metropolitan Hospital trended for 3 days. People shared their own stories of experiencing racism in healthcare. Others defended Dr. Chen, saying his private thoughts should not matter if his work was excellent. The debate spread everywhere, from coffee shops to college classrooms to dinner tables. At Metropolitan Hospital, the phones rang non-stop. Reporters wanted interviews. Community leaders demanded answers. Patients called to cancel appointments with Dr. Chen. The hospital's public relations team worked around the clock to manage the crisis. A statement was released. Metropolitan Hospital has zero tolerance for discrimination of any kind. Dr. Michael Chen has been suspended pending a complete investigation. We are committed to providing excellent, equitable care to all patients. But statements did not stop the anger. By Friday afternoon, protesters gathered outside the hospital. About 200 people showed up with signs. "Black Lives Matter even under anesthesia," one sign read. "Fire racist doctors," said another. "Healthcare is a human right," said a third. The protesters were peaceful but loud. They chanted. They gave speeches. Local news crews filmed everything. The hospital had to increase security. Some staff members left through back doors to avoid the crowds. Inside the hospital, Jerome watched the news from his bed. His phone buzzed constantly with calls and texts. Reporters somehow got his number. Friends and former students reached out. Everyone wanted to know how he felt. Jerome did not know how he felt. He was still processing everything. Part of him was grateful to be alive. Part of him felt violated. Part of him was angry. Part of him just felt sad. His sister Denise was furious enough for both of them. "You should sue," she said. "You should make sure that man never works as a doctor again." "Maybe," Jerome said quietly. He was still weak from surgery. His body was healing, but his mind was exhausted. A lawyer called offering free representation. Civil rights organizations reached out offering support. Someone started a GoFundMe to help with Jerome's medical bills. Within 2 days, it raised over $100,000. Jerome did not ask for any of it. He just wanted to understand what happened and why. Across the city, Dr. Michael Chen sat in his living room watching his life fall apart on television. His wife Susan sat next to him, holding his hand but saying nothing. Their 2 children were upstairs, home from school because other kids had been mean to them. "Your dad is a racist," someone had told his daughter Emma at lunch. "My dad is not racist," Emma had shouted back, even though she did not fully understand what was happening. Michael's son David had found cruel comments about his father online. Kids at school had shown him the headlines. David was only 12 years old. He did not know how to process this. Michael's phone buzzed with messages. Some were supportive. Other doctors texted saying they understood, that sometimes people say things they don't mean under stress. But other messages were hateful. People he had never met sent death threats. Someone posted his home address online. The police had to drive by his house several times a day. Susan finally spoke. "Did you really say those things?" Michael had already told her yes, but she kept asking, hoping the answer would change. I was tired, Michael said. I was frustrated. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. How did you mean it then? Susan asked. Michael did not have a good answer. He had said what he said. The recording was clear. He could not take it back or explain it away. I saved his life, Michael said. Doesn't that count for something? Maybe, Susan said. But you also hurt him. Both things are true. The medical board scheduled a hearing. Michael's lawyer said they had a good case for keeping his license. His surgical record was spotless. He had never been sued for malpractice. Hundreds of patients were alive because of him. Surely that mattered more than words spoken during a stressful surgery. But Michael knew it was not that simple. He had not just said something offensive. He had revealed how he really thought about people. And once people saw that, they could not unsee it. On Saturday, another group gathered at the hospital. This group was smaller, about 50 people. They held signs supporting Dr. Chen. Don't destroy a good doctor, their signs said. Actions matter more than words. He saved a life. Some of these supporters were former patients. A woman named Helen Martinez was there with her teenage son. Dr. Chen had performed emergency surgery on her son 3 years ago after a car accident. The boy would have died without that surgery. Dr. Chen is a hero to my family, Helen told a reporter. I don't care what he said. I care what he did. He gave me my son back. Another former patient, an older black man named Robert Williams, also spoke to reporters. I had a heart attack 5 years ago. Dr. Chen operated on me. He treated me with respect. He saved my life. I'm black and I'm telling you that man is not what they're saying he is. But other black patients came forward with different stories. A woman named Keisha Brown said Dr. Chen had been dismissive when she complained about chest pain 2 years ago. He told her to lose weight and exercise more. She ended up having a heart attack 3 months later. Another doctor treated her. Maybe he saved some black lives, Keisha said, but he doesn't respect us. I could feel it when he talked to me. Now I know I wasn't imagining it. The story became more complicated every day. Dr. Chen was not simply a villain or a hero. He was a complex person who had done both great and terrible things, and people did not know what to do with that complexity. Jerome's church organized a prayer vigil. Over 300 people came. They prayed for Jerome's healing. They prayed for justice. They prayed for the hospital and for change in the medical system. Jerome attended, walking slowly with his sister's support. His chest still hurt, but he wanted to be there. I don't want revenge, Jerome told his pastor. I just want to understand how this happened. His pastor nodded. Sometimes understanding is harder than anger. By Monday, the state medical board announced a formal investigation. Dr. Chen could not practice medicine until it was complete. The investigation would take months. His career hung in the balance. Metropolitan Hospital hired a diversity consultant to review all their policies. They planned mandatory anti-bias training for all staff. They created a patient advocacy office where people could report discrimination. They were trying to show they took this seriously, but critics said it was too little too late. Activists pointed out that racism in medicine was not new. Studies showed black patients received worse care than white patients. They were less likely to get pain medication. Their symptoms were dismissed more often. They had higher mortality rates for treatable conditions. Dr. Chen is not the only problem, a community leader said at a press conference. He's just the one who got caught. How many other doctors think like this but never get recorded? The question hung in the air unanswered. In his hospital room, Jerome received a letter. It came through the hospital administration. The envelope had no return address. Inside was a single handwritten page. Dear Mr. Walker, it began. My name is Michael Chen. I am the surgeon who operated on you. I am writing to request something I have no right to ask. I would like to meet with you face to face, not to make excuses, not to defend myself, just to talk, human to human, about what happened. I understand if you refuse. But if you are willing, I will come wherever you want, whenever you want. I owe you at least the chance to speak directly. Sincerely, Michael Chen. Jerome read the letter 3 times. His sister read it and immediately said no. Don't meet with him, Denise insisted. He doesn't deserve your time. But Jerome kept thinking about it. He was angry, yes. He was hurt, definitely. But he was also curious. He wanted to look Dr. Chen in the eye and ask him why. He wanted to understand how someone could save his life and hate him at the same time. Maybe meeting would give him closure. Maybe it would make things worse. Jerome did not know. but he felt like he needed to know more before he could move forward. After 2 days of thinking, Jerome made his decision. He called the hospital administrator. "Tell Dr. Chen I will meet with him," Jerome said. "But we need a counselor there. And my sister comes too." The administrator promised to arrange everything. The meeting was scheduled for the following Wednesday at a neutral location. Neither of them knew what would happen when they sat across from each other. The counseling center was quiet and neutral. It was not a hospital or a courthouse or anyone's home. Just a simple office with comfortable chairs, soft lighting, and walls painted a calm blue color. A mediator named Dr. Rachel Foster sat ready to guide the conversation. She specialized in difficult dialogues and restorative justice. Jerome arrived first. His sister Denise walked beside him, watching him carefully. He was still recovering from surgery. His chest hurt when he moved too quickly, but he insisted on being here. He needed answers more than he needed rest. They sat in 2 chairs facing an empty couch. Jerome's hands were folded in his lap. He wore a simple t-shirt and jeans. The bandage under his shirt reminded him constantly of what had happened. "Are you sure about this?" Denise asked for the 10th time. "I'm sure," Jerome said, though he was not completely sure at all. Dr. Foster explained the process. "This is a safe space. Both of you can speak freely. I'm here to facilitate, not to judge. The goal is understanding, not necessarily agreement. You can leave at any time if you feel uncomfortable." Jerome nodded. 5 minutes later, Dr. Michael Chen arrived. He looked different than Jerome remembered from the hospital. Smaller somehow. He wore regular clothes, not a white coat. His face looked tired. His eyes were sad. Michael stopped in the doorway when he saw Jerome. For a moment, neither man spoke. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Michael finally said. Jerome did not respond. He just watched Michael sit down on the couch across from him. Dr. Foster began. "Dr. Chen, you requested this meeting. Would you like to start?" Michael took a deep breath. He had rehearsed this. He had practiced what to say. But now, sitting across from Jerome, all his prepared words felt hollow. "Mr. Walker, I want to apologize," Michael began. His voice was steady but quiet. "What I said during your surgery was wrong. It was hurtful. It was racist. You trusted me with your life, and I betrayed that trust." Jerome sat still, listening. Michael continued. "I have no excuse. I was not more tired than usual. I was not under unusual stress. I said what I said because those thoughts were in my head. And I am deeply sorry." The words sounded practiced. Too smooth. Jerome was not satisfied. "Why?" Jerome asked. "Why did you think those things about me? You didn't even know me." Michael looked down at his hands. "You're right. I didn't know you. I made assumptions based on where you came from and what you looked like. I was wrong." "That's not an answer," Jerome said, his voice getting stronger. "I want to know why. What did I do to make you think that way about me?" "Nothing," Michael said. "You did nothing. This is about me, not you." "But it affected me." Jerome's voice rose. Denise put a hand on his arm, but he kept going. "You stood in my hospital room and let me thank you. You checked my surgical wound and acted like everything was fine. You knew what you said about me and you pretended nothing was wrong. How could you do that?" Michael's face crumpled. "I don't know. I told myself the surgery was what mattered. I saved your life so the rest didn't count. I convinced myself I could just move forward and forget about it." "Well, I can't forget about it," Jerome said. "Every time I touch my chest, I think about your hands inside my body. Your hands that belong to someone who hates people like me." "I don't hate you," Michael said quickly. "Then what?" Jerome demanded. "What do you call what you said?" Michael was quiet for a long time. Dr. Foster let the silence sit. Sometimes silence was important. Finally, Michael spoke again, but this time his voice was different. Less rehearsed, more raw. "When I was 8 years old, my family came to America from Taiwan," Michael said. "We had nothing. My parents worked in a restaurant. We lived in a tiny apartment. I was the only Asian kid in my school for 2 years. Jerome listened, his anger still present but now mixed with curiosity. "Kids called me names," Michael continued. "They made fun of my lunch. They pulled their eyes back and laughed at me. Teachers acted like I should be grateful to be in America. They made me feel like I had to prove I belonged here." Michael's hands were shaking. "So I worked harder than everyone. I studied more. I became the best student. I got into the best college and the best medical school. I thought if I was excellent enough, people would see me as equal, as American. That's not the same as what happened to me, Jerome said. I know it's not, Michael agreed. But somewhere along the way, I started thinking that if I worked hard to overcome my circumstances, everyone else should too. I started judging people who struggled. I started blaming them instead of seeing the systems that made things hard. He looked directly at Jerome now. I became the thing I hated. People judged me for being Asian, and I started judging black people. I told myself it was different, that my judgments were based on facts and statistics. But it was just racism. I was just doing to others what had been done to me. The room was very quiet. Even Denise, who had been ready to defend her brother against anything Michael said, was listening carefully. I see black patients every week, Michael continued. Some have health problems because of poverty and stress and lack of access to healthy food. These are system problems, but I blame them personally. I acted like their struggles were their fault. I forgot that my success was partly luck. I had parents who sacrificed everything for me. I had teachers who eventually saw my potential. I had opportunities. Jerome leaned back in his chair. His chest hurt. Not from the surgery now, but from something else. Something complicated. Do you know what I do? Jerome asked. Michael shook his head. I teach history at a high school on the south side, Jerome said. The place you complained about during my surgery. I teach kids who come to school hungry sometimes. Kids who live in neighborhoods where they hear gunshots. Kids who have every reason to give up, but they keep trying. Michael closed his eyes. I also coach basketball and volunteer at a community center, Jerome continued. I help kids with homework. I drive them to college visits. I show up for them because sometimes I'm the only adult who does. And you know what? These kids are amazing. They're smart and funny and full of potential. They just need someone to believe in them. I'm sorry, Michael whispered. You said you were in that operating room saving someone who wouldn't save themselves, Jerome said. But I was in a gym playing basketball with kids when my heart failed. I was being active. I was helping my community. You had no idea who I was, but you decided I was lazy and worthless because of my skin color. Each word hit Michael like a punch. Because they were true, all of it was true. Denise spoke for the first time. My brother is one of the best men I know. Students from 10 years ago still call him for advice. His neighbors trust him. Kids look up to him. And you acted like he was nothing while you saved his life. How do we get past that? Michael did not have an answer. I don't know if you can, he said honestly. I don't know if you should. Maybe some things can't be fixed. Dr. Foster intervened gently. Let's take a moment. This is heavy for everyone. They sat in silence. Outside cars drove by. Somewhere a phone rang. Life continued even while this difficult conversation happened. Jerome finally spoke again, softer this time. I've experienced racism my whole life, but this was different. I was unconscious, completely vulnerable, and someone I trusted was mocking me. That's what hurts most, the vulnerability. I know, Michael said, and I violated that. I can never take that back. More silence, then Jerome asked something unexpected. Do you want to change? Really change, not just say you're sorry? Michael looked up, surprised by the question. Yes, but I don't know how. That's honest, at least, Jerome said. He looked at his sister, then back at Michael. I'm not ready to forgive you. I don't know if I ever will be. But I want to understand this. I want to understand how someone can save lives and still think the way you do. So do I, Michael admitted. I've been asking myself that all week. Dr. Foster leaned forward. What I'm hearing is that both of you are willing to keep talking. Not to fix everything today, but to continue this dialogue. Is that right? Jerome nodded slowly. Maybe. I need to think about it. I would be willing, Michael said. If Mr. Walker is. They talked for another hour. Sometimes the conversation was angry. Sometimes it was sad. Sometimes it was just two people trying to understand something complicated and painful. By the end, nothing was resolved. Jerome was not healed emotionally. Michael was not forgiven. But something small had shifted. They had seen each other as humans. Flawed, hurting, complicated humans. As they prepared to leave, Michael spoke one last time. Mr. Walker, I know I saved your life surgically. But I also damaged you in another way. I don't expect you to thank me for the surgery anymore. I don't deserve that. Jerome stood slowly, his chest still aching. You're right. You don't deserve my thanks. But you deserve honesty, so here it is. I'm glad I'm alive, even though I hate how I got here. Both things are true. He walked to the door with his sister. Before leaving, he turned back. If we do this again, if we keep talking, I need something from you. I need you to really look at yourself. Not the excuses, not the explanations. The real truth about who you are and how you think. I will, Michael promised. I am. Jerome nodded and left. Michael sat alone in the room for a long time after. Dr. Foster stayed with him. That was brave, she said. For both of you. It was necessary, Michael replied. But I don't know where we go from here. Neither do they, Dr. Foster said. But sometimes not knowing is the beginning of something new. 4 months passed. 4 months of medical board hearings, news coverage, public debate, and private reflection. The story slowly faded from the headlines, replaced by newer scandals and different tragedies. But for the people involved, nothing faded. Everything remained raw and present. Dr. Michael Chen lost his position at Metropolitan Hospital. The medical board suspended his license for 1 year. He was required to complete extensive anti-racism training and perform 200 hours of community service. Many people said the punishment was too light. Others said it was too harsh. Nobody was completely satisfied. Jerome Walker recovered physically. His heart was strong. The surgery had been perfect. But emotionally, he struggled. He returned to teaching but found it hard to focus sometimes. His students noticed he seemed sadder. The joy in his work had dimmed slightly. During those 4 months, Jerome and Michael met 6 more times with Dr. Foster. The conversations were never easy. Sometimes Jerome was angry. Sometimes Michael was defensive. Sometimes they both just felt exhausted by the weight of everything. But slowly, something changed. They started seeing each other more clearly. Michael shared more about his life, his insecurities, his fear of not being good enough. Jerome talked about the daily experience of being Black in America, the exhaustion of constantly proving his worth, the pain of being stereotyped. They did not become friends. That would be too simple, too neat. But they became 2 people who understood each other better. Then in the 5th month after the surgery, Jerome made a decision that shocked everyone. He called a press conference. Reporters gathered expecting Jerome to announce a lawsuit or to demand stronger action against Dr. Chen. Instead, Jerome stood at a podium with his sister beside him and said something completely unexpected. I have spent 5 months thinking about what happened to me, Jerome began. His voice was steady but emotional. I have been angry. I have been hurt. I still am both of those things. But I have also been thinking about what comes next. Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward. Dr. Chen said terrible things about me while saving my life, Jerome continued. What he did was wrong. I want to be clear about that. Racism in medicine is real and it costs Black lives. That cannot be ignored or minimized. People nodded, expecting him to call for justice. But I have also spent time talking with Dr. Chen, Jerome said. Really talking. And I have seen something that made me think differently about this situation. The room got very quiet. I saw a man who made terrible choices but who wants to change, Jerome said. Not just say he wants to change, but actually do the work. And I started asking myself, what do I want from this situation? Do I want Dr. Chen destroyed? Do I want him to never practice medicine again? Or do I want something else? He paused, gathering his thoughts. I believe in restorative justice, Jerome said. I believe people can grow and change. So I am making a public statement today. I do not want Dr. Chen's career completely ended. I want him to face real consequences, which he has. But I also want him to become part of the solution. Reporters started shouting questions, but Jerome raised his hand. I am proposing that Dr. Chen work with me and community organizations to address racism in healthcare. I want him to speak about his experience. I want him to help train other doctors. I want him to use what happened as a teaching tool so this never happens to anyone else. The room erupted. Some reporters looked confused. Others looked angry. This was not the story they expected. Denise stood next to her brother, supporting him even though she had argued against this decision for weeks. She still was not sure it was right, but she respected Jerome's choice. Some people will say I am being too forgiving, Jerome continued. Maybe I am. But I have learned that carrying anger is exhausting. I don't want to spend my life defined by what Dr. Chen said about me. I want to be defined by how I responded to it. He ended the press conference with one final statement. Dr. Chen and I will never be friends. What he did will always hurt, but maybe together, we can prevent this from happening to someone else. Maybe that is worth more than revenge. The response was immediate and divided. Civil rights leaders were split. Some praised Jerome's approach as brave and forward-thinking. Others criticized him for being too soft on racism. Social media debated for days. Everyone had an opinion about what Jerome should have done. But Jerome did not read the comments. He had made his decision based on what felt right to him, not what others wanted. Michael Chen watched the press conference from his living room. He cried. Not because he was off the hook, he knew he was not, but because someone he had hurt was offering him a chance at redemption he did not deserve. He called Jerome that night. "Are you sure about this?" Michael asked. "No," Jerome said honestly, "but I'm doing it anyway." "Why?" Jerome thought about it. "Because I teach kids who make mistakes. Big mistakes. And I tell them that mistakes don't define them forever if they do the work to change. I have to believe that for adults too, or everything I teach is a lie." "I won't waste this opportunity," Michael promised. "You better not," Jerome said. Over the next 6 months, they began working together. It was uncomfortable at first. Michael spoke at medical conferences about unconscious bias. He shared his story, the full truth, including the shameful parts. Many doctors did not want to hear it. They got defensive. They said they were not like him, but some listened. Some recognized their own biases in Michael's story. Some started asking questions about how to do better. Jerome spoke alongside Michael sometimes. He talked about being a patient, about the fear of not being believed when you say something hurts, about the statistics showing Black patients receive less pain medication and worse care. Together, they created a training program for medical students. It was not just about what not to say. It was about examining why people think certain things, where biases come from, and how to actively work against them. Michael also began working in free medical clinics in Black neighborhoods. At first, people did not want him there. They knew his story. But he showed up every week anyway, offering his skills, asking permission before touching anyone, listening more than talking. Slowly, very slowly, some people started trusting him. Not all, many never would, but some saw that he was trying to be better than he was. A year after the surgery, Michael's medical license was reinstated with conditions. He could practice again, but under supervision. He could not return to Metropolitan Hospital. Instead, he took a position at a smaller community hospital, where his salary was less but his impact might be greater. Jerome continued teaching. He also became an advocate for patient rights. He worked with hospitals to create better systems for reporting discrimination. He trained patient advocates. He told his story to medical students, showing them the real consequences of bias. 2 years after the surgery, they were invited to speak at a national medical conference. 3,000 doctors and nurses attended. Michael and Jerome sat on stage together. "I am not here to say everything is fixed," Jerome told the audience. "Dr. Chen hurt me deeply. That pain does not disappear just because we work together now. But I am here to say that people can change if they choose to do the hard work." Michael spoke next. "I thought I was not racist because I saved lives regardless of color. But racism is not just about whether you let someone die. It's about whether you see them as fully human. And I did not. I saw Mr. Walker as a stereotype, not a person." He paused, his voice thick with emotion. "I was wrong. And admitting that has been the hardest and most important thing I have ever done. Harder than any surgery. Because it required looking at the worst parts of myself and not looking away." The audience was silent. Some people were uncomfortable. Some were moved. Some were angry. All of them were thinking. After the conference, a young Black medical student approached them. Her name was Ashley. She was in her 3rd year of school. "Thank you," she said to Jerome. "I have experienced racism from professors and doctors. I was starting to think I should quit. But hearing you talk about it makes me feel less alone." Jerome smiled at her. "Don't quit. We need doctors who understand what it feels like to be dismissed." "We need you," Ashley turned to Michael. She looked at him for a long moment. "I don't forgive you for what you did, but I respect that you are trying to be better." "That matters," Michael nodded. "It's the least I can do." As Ashley walked away, Jerome turned to Michael. "You know people will always judge you for this, right? This will follow you forever." "I know," Michael said. "It should. What I did matters. I can't just move past it." "Good," Jerome said. Because the moment you think you've done enough is the moment you stop growing. They had reached an understanding. Not friendship, not forgiveness, but something else. A partnership built on honesty and the shared belief that people and systems could improve. 3 years after the surgery, Jerome stood in his classroom teaching a lesson about the civil rights movement. He talked about Martin Luther King Jr. and the philosophy of nonviolence. He talked about the difference between peace and justice. Sometimes people think forgiveness means forgetting, Jerome told his students, but it doesn't. Forgiveness means choosing not to let anger control your life. It means believing change is possible while still demanding accountability. A student raised her hand. "Mr. Walker, is this about that doctor?" "The one we read about?" Jerome smiled. His students knew his story. He did not hide it. "Yes," he said. "It's about that and about so much more. It's about how we respond when people hurt us. It's about what we do with pain. Do you regret not destroying him?" Another student asked. Jerome thought about it. "Sometimes. When I'm angry or when my chest hurts and I remember everything, yes. But most days, no. Because what we're doing now might prevent another person from going through what I went through. That feels more important than revenge." Across the city, Michael finished examining a patient, an elderly black woman with high blood pressure. He explained her medication carefully. He asked about her home life, her stress, her support system. He treated her with respect and attention. As she left, she said, "Thank you, doctor. You listened to me." "Not all doctors do that," Michael nodded. "Thank you for trusting me." After she left, he sat in his office and thought about how far he had come, and how far he still needed to go. The work was never finished. Becoming a better person was not a destination, but a continuous journey. He thought about Jerome often, about the complicated relationship they had built, about the unexpected outcome that nobody predicted. A man who saved a life while expressing hatred. A man whose life was saved by someone who degraded him. Two people who should have stayed enemies but chose a different path. It was not a perfect story. It did not fix racism or erase pain, but it showed that even in the worst circumstances, people could choose growth over destruction, understanding over revenge, and hope over despair. The most unexpected outcome was not forgiveness. It was not redemption. It was transformation. Both men were different than they were before. The surgery saved Jerome's physical heart, but what came after changed both of their hearts in ways surgery never could. And in a world that often feels divided beyond repair, their story became a small light. Not bright enough to fix everything, but bright enough to show that change, real change, was possible if people were willing to do the hard, uncomfortable work of becoming better than they were.